let's see, what am I running out of time?
What did, oh no, what did Grandpa do for a living?
Grandpa was a bulldozer operator and an engineer. He operated a steam shovel. When I was older, 11, 12 years old, I'd go with him on some Saturdays if the weather was decent in the fall. And I remember a couple of occasions, we were in Palmer Woods. Some of the jobs that he did were big homes on Palmer Park, Palmer Woods they called it. Big, beautiful homes. Nowadays they'd cost $500,000 or more. And also in the Grosse Pointes, we'd go over there and my dad would say, no, these are the nicest, this is the nicest section of Detroit, Grosse Pointe. And, but there were always Italian workers at that time laying the tile all around the houses. And sometimes they'd invite me to come right down there and work with them. I was 11 or 12 years old. They'd said, come and have lunch with us, Glenn. And my dad said, you can eat with them, but don't drink any of that Dago Red, which was an Italian wine, homemade wine. He said they'd drink it just like water. But they'd have big loaf of hard bread and bologna, big chunks of bologna. And they'd say, here, Glenn, they'd slice off a piece and hand it to me. And so he'd say, you can do anything we want, but don't drink that Dago Red. And these Italian boys would say, come on, Glenn, you can drink a little bit. He won't see it. And I'd say, I better not. He's pretty rigid with his rules. So I didn't do it. But I enjoyed working with him. And that was just one occasion. The Depression was such that if you wanted a dime, you better work for it because you weren't going to get it. There was no way anybody was going to give you a dime. And I loved popsicles, so I decided I'm going to caddy. So when I was 11 years old, I asked my cousins, I said, let's start hitchhiking out to Brooklyn's golf course, which was a 20-mile, and John R. We lived at near 9 Mile and John R. So we'd get on the corner and hitchhike. If you can imagine an 11-year-old boy standing with a bunch of kids hitchhiking, that's the way he did that. And my mother was very liberal. She was strong-willed, but she let us know if we could do things. And I asked permission. She said, okay, we need the money. So some days I'd come home and my dad would say, how much did you earn today, Glenn? I'd say, $1.50. He said, that's $1.50 more than I earned. And so I'd give them about $1 and I'd keep 50 cents and split it up with my brothers and sisters, the younger ones. So we all get a popsicle or an ice cream. So. But once in a while I'd get when I was 12 years old, I decided from now on I can buy all my own clothes. So I told Dad, I said, you never have to buy any clothes for me, I'm going to save enough. So that's what I started doing. Every time I'd loop, that's the time when you caddy for somebody, they call it a loop. If I made $1, I decided I'd change it, or save a quarter of it. So that's what I would do. So at the end of the summer, I'd have maybe $20, which was a fortune in those days. And I'd go down to Highland Park, the whole works, and that was a luxury we never even dreamt of. At one time, we had a small house, and there were 6 boys and 2 girls in our family, and the 6 boys all shared one bedroom, 2 beds. There was a space about this wide in between for you to get out of the bed and walk. And wouldn't you know, I was the one in the family that wet the bed. And that was the most humiliating thing in my life. And I finally got over that, and I was happy. When I was 12 years old, I broke my leg playing. Well, I'll backtrack a little bit. At lunchtime, Louis and Veda were there. He was 8 years older than I was, and Veda was 5 years older. And they were both through school, and I was going to United Oaks. I was in the 6th grade. And they said, Glenn, you're just talking so much. Will you just go to school? And I said, well, I've got about a half hour before I'm due there. Oh, just take off, okay? My mother said, yeah, Glenn, why don't you go? We just want to talk and visit. So I said, okay. She said, you're monopolizing the whole conversation. So I said, okay, I'll see you later. So just in a few minutes, I was playing football, touch football. And I went up to, I can't remember if I was up catching a pass or blocking a pass. But anyway, another kid and I went up, and he jumped up, and I laid there with it, and I knew I wouldn't be able to walk. My leg was broken, my left leg. So Kenny, my younger brother, ran home and told Louis, and Louis came running down to the school and picked me up and carried me over to the nurse's car. Miss Neely was a school nurse. And she had some pillows in her car, and she said, put them in here, Louis. So she drove me to the Oakdale, well, right next to the Oakdale Theater, up above it. Dr. Myers, Mikey rather, Dr. Mikey's hospital. We didn't know it at the time, but it was in receivership because of the Depression, and he didn't have any money to pay the bills, and my dad didn't have any money to pay for this, so they just let me lay there from, it was probably about 12:30 when I got there until about 8 o'clock that night. My dad finally rounded up the money necessary to take care of me. He went over to Uncle Perry. He always had money. He worked every day at Ford's and at River Rouge, and he also did other things. He always, when nobody else had any money, he always had money. So my dad went over to him and borrowed some money from him, and they finally had the money to work on it. But I lived there all day with nothing to eat and nothing. I couldn't. They didn't have any food for me, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I started screaming for the nurse. Nurse, I gotta go to the bathroom. I finally just wet myself. Nobody came. It was humiliating, but that's the way it happened. But that was just a little incident in my life. But I had a happy childhood. All of my brothers and I played football. There were 5 out of the 6 of us played football at Hazel Park, and Louis was the captain of the 1932 team, and I played the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th years, and I was the captain of the 39 team, and I graduated in 1940. But I was always proud of that I was able to catch up to Louis. He was my idol at that time, he and Howard. But we just had a great childhood. We all agreed it couldn't have been much better. And I've rambled on and on here, but so I'm going to take a break. I want to go back a little and backtrack and tell a little bit about the family. First, my grandfather, my father's father, was Norval Churchill, and he fought in the Civil War. He was, I think he was born right near Romeo, what is now Romeo, Michigan. I think it was Ray Township, and or no, Berlin Township, and he fought. He enlisted in the cavalry, and he loved horses, and he fought under General Custer, and I think they were pretty close to the same age, and he was one of Custer's orderlies, and I know he fought at Gettysburg, which was a famous Civil War battle, and he was a hero in the sense that he saved Custer's life. I've heard 2 different stories, and I'm not sure which one is true. One, I heard that he had a sword, and I've seen a sword with a saber cut. It looked like a saber cut, right on the handle. He held it up just as a Confederate was going to slash Custer. And that was one story that I heard. Another story that I heard was that he shot him with a pistol. So I'm not sure, but I know it's recorded in history that Private Norval Churchill did save General Custer's life. I'm not sure he was a general then. I think he was a colonel. But anyway, it was Custer. And he, after he got out of the Civil War, Norval returned to he was one of several children, I think 7 or 8 children. And they lived north of Romeo, Michigan. And my dad told me that I think it was when Custer was getting ready to go out west, and he finally lost his life to the Indians at Little Round Top. He asked Norval to go with him, and Norval said, "No, I'm getting married and I want to raise a family." And he did marry Hannah Savage, and they moved up to near what is now Central Lake, Michigan, up northern Michigan. And he had, I think it was 7 children: Elmer, Floyd, Maud, can't remember the other girl's name, and then Ina, then Harrison, and then my dad was the youngest. He was born in 1889. And Hannah Churchill, Hannah Savage Churchill, his mother, passed away in 1894. So he would have been, I think he was not quite 5, and she died in childbirth. And